In the bottom right-hand corner, as the red Zerg, we got Liquid TLO. Top left-hand corner, as the green Terran, we have FXO Strelok. This is Ohana, so normally we do see very macro-oriented maps, at least after 2 base, just because it's very easy to situate your base for both of these players. There is a possibility of early game cheese, just because you know where your opponent is. But normally we see early drone scouts. Now TLO is not doing that. It's pretty important actually to get that early drone scouting just to see if it's a double barracks or not. That's one of the biggest things you have to be careful about.
Especially on a 2-player map.
Yes.
Double barracks play is pretty strong because of the closer distance. Normally 2-player maps don't have that distance compared to like Tal'Darim Altar or Entombed Valley, which isn't in our map pool. But the idea is Zerg would like to have that reassurance otherwise. But TLO, pretty confident in his ability to hold off, I guess. For now, he's going for pretty standard build, hatchery, and then a pool. Now, TLO's going without gas, and that's been getting really popular, Andre, and especially on a map like Ohana. What can we see out of a build that TLO is doing right now?
Normally when you do this, you're just getting a very, very fast economy. You want to get your queens out ASAP and just start placing creep tumors. And you place creep tumors down before your opponent is actually able to get enough Hellions out to do something about it. You at least have some creep spread to work with. Then right after that, you get all 4 gases at the same time. And you have a lot of agency to move around. You can go into different type of techs. Although it's going to be delayed, it's going to also be powerful. Not only that, you have a lot of expendable larvae. Normally, you're trying to mix in the drones and then units, drones, units. Now, all of a sudden, with this no gas, you normally go 3 hatcheries, and you have all the larvae in the world to use in this beginning stage. It's really efficient, I think, and it is the way to go in TVZ.
Yeah, and the only trade-off is, of course, you don't have that early map control you normally have with Speedlings. And, of course, TLO knows Strelok's kind of style where he just loves very standard reactor factory. I was thinking reactor Hellions, which is actually the same thing, yeah. Reactor Hellions kind of thing, and you can see Strelok's already gearing up for it. Now, Ohana is also a pretty interesting map because I've been looking over my shoulder, watching Gretorp play a lot of TVZ on this map specifically, and creep spread is just extremely important, especially on a map like Ohana. And TLO has been known to be one of the best creep spreads, so I want to look at that and see how it comes to play, especially late game.
The thing about Ohana is the push distances are pretty nice for Terran, especially when you get up to the 4-base type style. All I have to do is take my control my Xel'Naga tower, and then I have a really nice push distance from there to your opponent's 4th base, whether it's the left side or the right side. That's why it's so important to actually have creep spread on both lanes. If you have creep spread on both lanes, it enables you to take those expansions. If you don't, you're in a tough situation. But it looks like already TLO is doing some fancy pan shenanigans. He is going for a double factory Blue Flame Hellion build.
Yo, you mean Strelok?
Oh, excuse me, Strelok. What am I talking about?
Totally cool, but this is also a build that's not bad at all on Ohana, especially because, well, given the nature of things, you're able to really get in and out, and especially because TLO, the 3rd is kind of really hard to prevent Hellions from being able to get anything, so you can get lots of information. Of course, Hellions have multiple purposes. You can deny creep tumors, you can just take away vision for Zerg for a while. We'll see how effective Strelok is, but for now, he also has to really make sure TLO thinks it's just a regular Hellion expand.
Oh my gosh.
And not going to be, in fact, this huge amount of Hellions are coming out.
You know what? TLO is in a terrible position, I should say. He's being a little bit too greedy. Taking this 3rd base, it basically says, I'm not expecting you to do any early game pressure. And Strelok is doing the exact opposite of that. He is, in fact, doing early game pressure, Frodan.
Oh, yeah, he is. And, yeah, that's not going to be beneficial to him whatsoever. You could see Inferno pre-ignited about 1/3 of the way done. Strelok still hiding this very well, although 4 Hellions are on the map right now and just completely masking the inevitable Hellion run by. And TLO doesn't really have any overlords in position other than the ones at the natural, but he hasn't really even dipped in to see anything yet.
So here's the thing. TLO is actually killing himself. These destructible rocks back here are so important to actually have for him.
Oh, man.
Unfortunately, he doesn't know it is a Blue Flame Hellion run by. But I love the positioning of his queens. If he puts all 3 queens here and doesn't put any more creep tumors down, he has the ability to defend that ramp very easily. Just all 3 queens can constantly transfuse. You replace them in with roaches. So it makes the power of these Hellions and their destructive capability to take out the ramps with queens severely mitigated. I really like where TLO was. I don't like where he is now because he just relinquished control of that ramp.
And his Spinecrawler is still attacking, and he hasn't really stopped that. And Strelok's going to run straight to the third. A lot of drones are at that third location. The Queen also might drop here. And with that, Strelok has free reign, but he's actually going to back off despite that. And the Spinecrawler finishes off the rocks.
That's terrible. Now, Strelok doesn't know that this has happened yet. I don't even think that he's had too much vision over there.
No, he barely caught a glimpse of it.
But there are enough roaches to stop anything out here. I think Strelok might have missed his timing. That's a pretty critical timing right there. Now Strelok behind this has gone for a 4 factory push. So this will undoubtedly be some sort of huge 2-base aggression. It is a timing. Strelok is known for timings, as we know and love. But TLO knows everything that's going on. He should be able to defend this pretty easily.
Yeah, and Strelok knows, because he didn't really scout gas times or anything, so he says roaches are out. And, you know, that's going to be really good because normally, again, on maps like Ohana, we've been seeing a lot of Infestor play into, you know, just like Ling Infestor and just control the map through a lot of mobility and shut down drops. And Strelok knows that the gas investment from TLO wasn't that easy, so he has a pretty big window if he can follow it up with some good macro. You can see 3 tanks coming out at a time, really pumping out the amount of mech, and of course he's supplementing with just a few Marines.
I like the Marines as well. Normally people won't make Marines in this position, but the Marines are actually pretty intelligent. I think the DPS is really nice. Not only that, they add a nice tank shield, and they offer some sort of DPS that isn't just Hellions. Hellions are pretty flimsy in my opinion. So just having that extra DPS in there works out pretty nicely. You can also clear out Overlords atop. Normally when you're just going in with Siege Tanks and Hellions, there could be a huge amount of problems, but it looks like Strelok will just stay in his base. It looks like he's doing a +1 timing. The other timing would be a +1/1, but that's a long time to wait, and I highly doubt he waits that long.
Strelok lost quite a few Hellions, and he's still losing more. Oh my goodness, Strelok. He once had 10 Hellions, now comes back with only 4. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the Marines are a great buffer, especially because when you go for some kind of tank, any composition that involves tanks, Zerg only wants to get closer to it, right? They don't want to get too far because then they get completely zoned. And the Marines is a big disincentive. So Strelok, if you can really get good positioning, that will be the key. The biggest thing, though, is that TLO has been pretty active with his roaches and really keeping Strelok on his toes and making sure that he can keep tabs on the army. But now he should see the army move out, and Strelok has 1 Thor and a handful of mech units with Marines, even sending a lot of his SUVs. His timing looks very, very strong.
I think one of the most powerful upgrades TLO has right now is the tunneling claws. He's just about to get it. Now, the reason why these tunneling claws are so important, it stops his opponent from making any more mules. He can't call them down. The counterattack is over here and doing a lot of damage, picking off some of these siege tanks, but they need to be careful. There's the burrow, and he will regenerate relatively quickly.
The scan from Strelok trying to pick off the burrowed roaches, but TLO managed to barely get out of there. TLO is on 5 hatcheries, but he has yet to really saturate the base in the bottom right. And with that, TLO, if he can survive this 2-base push, will inevitably have such a huge macro advantage he can ride, especially because Hive's about to finish. But with Hive finishing, that is the most vulnerable time for Zerg. TLO trying to catch Terran out of position, especially because Strelok isn't fully sieged. He's got only some of his tank siege, and there it is, finally taking a pretty good checkered position. But Strelok playing with fire here. He is on creeping. He does get caught by a couple fungals, and that is very big as a lot of these Marines and SCVs end up dropping right here, Andre.
So I think Hive Tech is okay. You can keep that out, but I wouldn't actually say he should start developing upon that.
Yeah.
What he really needs, oh, nice scan! But he really needs infestor counts, and he needs to get that that neural parasite. If he doesn't get the neural parasite, it'll be a lot harder to stop a push like this. You can already see the Hellions and the Marines are cleared up pretty nicely, so it's only siege tanks. Is it going to be enough? A nice flank comes in here. Infested Terrans are going to be popped out, and it looks like TLO might be able to break this.
Oh, as Roaches burrow underneath, trying to get close to the siege tanks. A very good heads-up play. A scan from Strelok, but it might be a little bit too late. A lot of his tanks are in critical health, and the reinforcements from TLO should be able to clean this up, especially because he's kept his infestors alive as well. TLO playing very strong in his defense, and you can see Strelok, his attack is getting weaker and weaker. The scan trying to take out creep tumors as well as detect any burrowed roaches. But TLO, if you can just gear up for one final push, should be able to take out the rest. But these tank reinforcements, the macro from Strelok has been very key. You can see his resources have been low this entire time. And TLO now has tanks knocking on his third. But here comes the Infested Terrans and the scan picking up a lot of those kills. And a lot of those Infestor had energy, Andre. Does TLO have enough to break this?
It's going to be difficult. I think Strelok will come out on top with this. Additional reinforcements are coming in slowly, but another round of 21 roaches are inbound. And here we go. The drones get pulled off. It looks like TLO will be able to hold this. Strelok loses the remainder of his units, and he has no way to actually go anywhere from here.
Yeah.
He has to remake his army, and that gives TLO the perfect opportunity to start making Broodlords.
And yeah, I mean, after that, let's look at a little bit closer to what happened in the replay.
Oh, GG gets called out.
After the GG, I guess. Yeah. Strelok realizing he's too far behind, knows exactly what TLO had. A huge macro advantage.
Yeah.
And, you know, I wasn't sure if Strelok was going to macro another attempt, but you could tell that Strelok had that timing keyed, and that was his goal. That was the whole thing he was targeting the entire game and was not able to really get it. He had some pretty good positions, but the flank from TLO was very, very good.
Let's take a look at that instant replay, and we'll go over exactly the do's and not the do's and don'ts, but the good stuff and the bad stuff. I love the positioning of TLO. This was fantastic. But think, if you take all of those infested Terrans and instead use them to, I always want to say ensnare, but it's not. It's neural parasite. If you go and neural parasite everything, you're in a really great position to take control of everything. And you basically win that fight almost always. You know, there's never a position where you're losing that, just because you have the ability to basically remove one of their units from the field for 10 seconds, 15 seconds.
Yeah.
And it also forces the siege tanks to focus on infestors, which after they're done with their energy, they're basically huge meat shields. And if that's the only fight that matters, then I don't care. Kill my infestors, because the roaches are the ones that gain valuable position, and they're able to do a lot of damage closer in.
Yeah. Thank you so much to the sponsor of that game, Epson, for providing the projectors for NASL Season 3 and allowing us to operate not only just in the studio, but for the Anthill Pub Showdown this Sunday. We'll be back with game number 2 between TLO and Strelok. Can TLO take out Strelok, a TVZ master, 2-0, or will Strelok come back? Find out after this message.